بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jummah Mubarak to you all. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. All praise is due to Allah, from whom we seek help and forgiveness. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil of our own souls and from those of our bad deeds. Whomsoever Allah guides will never be led astray. Whomsoever Allah leads astray, no one can guide. We bear witness that there is no God except Allah, the one who has no partner. We bear witness that Prophet Muhammad is Allah's true servant and messenger. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon him. Allah tells us in the Quran, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. That, O ye who believe, be mindful of Allah. Be mindful of Allah in the way that Allah deserves, and do not die except in a state of full submission to Allah. Allah tells us in the Quran as well, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. That, O ye who believe, be mindful of Allah. Be mindful of Allah and say that which is right. Speak the truth. Allah will bless your deeds for you and forgive you of your sins. And whoever obeys Allah and the Messenger of Allah has truly achieved a great triumph. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. Pray that may Allah open my chest, make easy for me this task, and loosen the knots of my tongue, that these words may be understood. And we give glory to Allah, we give glory alone to Allah, that we have no knowledge except that which Allah has taught us, and verily it is Allah who is the all-knowing, the all-wise. Again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and Jummah Mubarak to you all, whether you are here in the space during the time of our broadcast, or if you're viewing at a later time. May the blessings of this Jummah be with you, and the protection and blessings of Allah be with you and your loved ones today, inshallah. So, what I wanted to just lift up today for us in terms of what we think about is stemming a little bit from these verses of this aspect of uh, gaining taqwa, of building on our taqwa, of being able to preserve it and enrich it and make it a foundation for us. This aspect of our God consciousness, this healthy fear of Allah, and that guides our life. Thinking about when we are told that, to be mindful of Allah in the way that Allah deserves, to be mindful of Allah in the way that Allah deserves, and to say that which is right. And what we'll talk about today is that the qawlan sadida, the straight path, the straight word that is given. And so, thinking about in this context, we want to talk about how taqwa, but is specifically linking to the thing that we oftentimes take for granted, the things that we oftentimes will not even think about, is affecting our taqwa, is with respect to our tongue, with respect to that which we say, with respect to that which we iterate, and now in our day and age, which we text, which we don't even need to verbalize. But when we think about being in a state of God consciousness, having a healthy fear of Allah, having this aspect of taqwa, being people of taqwa, we oftentimes will think about the different actions that we can do, and it becomes very outwardly, in a sense of what ritual can I do, what charity can I give, how can I, build that character as well, and so many aspects. What can I abstain from? What do I not eat? What do I not drink? What do I not partake in terms of social activities, relational activities, whatever it might be? Thinking about what is the thing that we oftentimes will miss? What is the thing that we oftentimes will take for granted and not account ourselves for? It's oftentimes our own tongue. And thinking about what are we losing out if we're doing all this stuff to try and build our taqwa and trying to be people of God consciousness, but our tongue is one that has not yet also followed that same discipline, is how it undermines all the different things that we're trying to do. So thinking about how in this context, Allah tells us in the Quran, in Surah Qaf, that there's not a single word that a human utters. There's not a single word that a human utters except that a supervising angel, an angel that is nearby, that is recording and always present, that is there, taking each of these things into account. That We may say something, we may shoot something out on the tongue, whether it's in a public gathering, whether it's a closed space, but knowing that our words are things that we are going to be accountable for, but also that our words are reflective of what is truly inside, that our speech is reflective of what is inside. That Allah tells us in the Quran, in Surah Zab, and in so many other places that, O ye who believe, be people of taqwa, have taqwa of Allah, and speak words of appropriate justice, speak words of truth, speak that which is the qawlan sadida, speak that which is the righteous word, speak that which is the truth. And so thinking about when we hear this aspect of fear Allah, have this injunction that Allah tells us to have this God consciousness, develop this God consciousness with words that are truthful, with words that are balanced, with words that are just, with words that ultimately are not just healing for the world around us, but healing for that which is inside. When we speak the truth, when we are able to utter that and vocalize that and script that which is actually the truth versus which is a lie, we start to heal those things that when we just tell lies, just are corrupting us in different ways that we may not take into account. That thinking about how the Prophet ﷺ as well had told us that whoever believes in Allah and the last day should be someone that speaks good or remains silent. That there's a merit in speaking good, there's also merit in remaining silent, but there is a detriment when we let that speech go beyond that which is a good word or even a silent word and go into something that becomes detrimental both for the world around us, but also for ourselves. So thinking about whoever believes in Allah and the last day, whoever hopes to be there in terms of not just in the side of being resurrected in a state of in a state of connection with respect to where we are going to be going, what is our destination, to have no fear in this sense, to find tranquility, to hope to be amongst those who are shaded, to hope to be amongst those who are given given an intercession by the Prophet ﷺ to be somebody that speaks good or remains silent. That the Prophet ﷺ also told his companions that whoever protects what is between their jaws and what is between their thighs, that person will enter paradise. Think about how much harm has been inflicted in this world, how much harm has been inflicted within different societies, within different communities, different neighborhoods, different places, because the things that were within the jaws, the things that were in between the thighs were not controlled. That you think about how much harm and destruction has come to different lands and different places and different peoples because they were lied about, because someone created a war based on a lie. Someone sent, a whole kind of coalition or whatnot to invade a people based on a lie, and committed genocide or whatnot based on a lie. But also how many people have been subject to or victim of sexual abuse, sexual violence that stems from that which is between the thighs, as the Prophet is alluding to here, that whoever protects not just that which is between the thighs, but also that which is between the jaws, they will enter paradise. Because thinking about the level of harm some things like this can inflict when they're not checked, that in each thing that we have been given by Allah, there is a blessing and a benefit. In between that which is with respect to reproductive organs, Allah has given us the ability to be able to have children, to be able to have offspring, and to have families, and to build healthy units and continue the community. But when unchecked, can cause a lot of different damages, a lot of different harm, not just within the moment, but for generations to come. When the things that are between our jaws are not checked. When they are checked, they produce truth. They produce truthful speech. They produce, beautiful words. They produce beautiful works and all of these different things. But when they're unchecked, thinking about the harms that they can cause, the wars they can start, the pain that they can cause to someone, the heartbreaks that they can do, all of these different things, the crimes that they can commit when this is not checked. So thinking about in this context, what is the merit of us not just investing in that which we can outwardly see and feel and be like, okay, I can clearly see that, but to also invest that with respect to our tongue. Thinking about the Prophet ﷺ also had told us that the angel of death attended to a man who was dying, and he examined that man's heart and found nothing there. And so when he untied the jaw of that man, found that the tip of the tongue was sticking to the roof of the mouth, saying La ilaha illallah, that there's no God except Allah, and that that person was forgiven due to a word of sincerity. Thinking about, what is the power of having of not just being able to do things outwardly, but being able to push ourselves to a space where maybe we haven't lived a good life, maybe we haven't been our best selves in the moment, but what is the merit of trying to push back against the grain and to try and speak something true with that intentionality? What is the benefit of it? We may not even get to know what the ultimate benefit of it was until our very last moments. And it may be that that one word of truth was our redeeming factor. Think about how the Prophet ﷺ had also said that he would hold his tongue for a long time. He would hold his tongue for a long time, and then he would speak to the people saying that I fear for you because of this. I fear for you because of this, that may Allah have mercy on a servant who speaks good and is rewarded, or that person refrains from speaking evil and is safe. That think about how the Prophet has given us that there's benefit in both, that there's a time and a place for the words and the speech and for our contributions and our thoughts and for our input and for us to open our mouth and to speak. But there's also a time for silence. There's also a time where no speech is the best speech. Because when we may engage in that moment with some speech or not well thought out speech or just put some words in it, we could cause some irreparable harm. We could cause some damage that is not just done to the outside, but is also done to the inside. And we're also taught that the faith of a servant is not upright until that person's heart is upright. And the person's heart is not upright until their tongue is upright. And a person will not enter into paradise until their neighbor is not secure from their evil. Let me repeat that one more time, that the faith of a servant is not upright. It's not good. It's not in the best status it could be until their heart is upright. And their heart is not in the best status it can be, the best space it can be, is not upright until the tongue is upright. And a person will not enter paradise if their neighbor is not secure from their evil. Thinking about how the tongue is not just limited to us with respect to taste buds and with respect to food or anything in that aspect. The tongue has a spiritual dimension and a spiritual effect as well, that what we utter, what we state, what we produce from this space here, the tongue has a direct connection in our spirit to our heart. And if our heart is receiving just as what we eat, you kind of hear this aphorism of you are what you eat. Thinking about that, the spiritual aspect, what we consume with respect to our words, or what we give with respect to our words, it basically is creating the state of our heart, just as the physical tongue is letting in the food that is going to create the state of the stomach and the physical state of the body. How the state of the heart is informed by the spiritual tongue as well. The tongue is informing the spirituality of it. And what is the state of that? What is the state of that heart? And that the heart directly then has an impact on the person's faith, that heart could become hardened. That heart could become just dark without any light. It could be just cold. It could be a place that's isolated. But what kinds of words are feeding that? What kinds of words are putting it in? So think about how, as we just go out from here and take away some of our takeaway points, inshallah. One, think about how our speech is a mirror of our faith. And our speech in this day and age is not just that which we will write out. It's not just that which we will speak. It's not just that which we will tell to someone, in a one-on-one conversation, in a group conversation, or in a closed-door conversation. It's not just that which we'll give at a podium. Our speech is also now that which is transcribed, which is texted, which is commented on a post on our social media. As it's our speeches transcended the previous ways in which people would communicate in a sense, and think about the different platforms and thinking about how our speeches going into different mediums that we may not attribute as speech, but it is literally our speech. That we may have the best tongue, we may be the most refined people when you come and talk to us, and have the best grammar, have the best akhlaq, have the best care for not using curse words or anything. But then as soon as we get on our social media platforms or our texting or whatever it might be, our messages or group chats or whatever it might be, we let all of that go. We don't act befitting, and it feels like there's two different people when you talk to them in person versus when you're commenting and you see what their commenting is, or how they're manner of speaking is in a digital platform. So think about that our speech is a mirror of our faith, that if we're showing two different sides of ourselves in this sense, there may be a reflection of our heart as well, of our spirituality, that there's two different sides as well. And we want to reconcile that. We want to build a wholeness and anneal and to repair any of those divides that are there. Thinking about how our Prophet ﷺ has taught us that silence is not a weakness. Silence is actually a tool of taqwa. It cultivates that. In a time when we feel like somebody has to say something, we always have to say something, words need to fill something. This is an important reminder from us, from our tradition, that sometimes silence is not weakness. And in the aphorism that silence is golden, that there are moments where silence is not merited, in moments of injustice and moments of gross harm, persecution, oppression, all those different things. But there's moments where silence is warranted, and silence is the best thing because it is a tool of taqwa, that it can protect us more than it can hurt us in certain instances where it's merited. But we're living in a day and age where the space needs to always feels like it needs to be filled with respect to how much we need to say about something, or we need to give our perspective, and to be able to take a step back and think about, are we really losing anything if we're not speaking something, or what are we gaining from just putting words out there for the sake of speaking words out there, versus being able to put something thoughtful if we would like, but if not, holding back. And that's the Prophet was someone that spoke with intention and did not speak simply to fill the space. Being the Prophet, being somebody who people would stop in their tracks and listen to, would give the whole time of the day to, and make sure that whatever he says, it's processed, they go through with it. But even him not using this as a way of as a way of being able to control or to lift up himself or whatnot, to show just the proper etiquette, the proper balance, that perfect model of humanity, by speaking only when one needs to speak, not filling that space with unnecessary talk, but just being able to model how we can helpfully communicate. And think about how much of the world around us, especially in our leadership and in different places here and throughout history, how much harm could have been prevented if people just held back what they needed to say, or they felt like they needed to say. But also how much harm would have been prevented if people needed to actually spoke when they needed to speak, versus just feeling like they just spoke into thin air. So thinking about how our deen, our religion, is one of balance, our faith is one of balance. And in a day and age where we're oftentimes provoked and stoked to try and speak and say something, give us a quote, give us a comment, do something, that we practice this restraint, because there's more benefit in it than there is harm when we speak the truth when we need to speak the truth, when we hold our tongue when we need to hold our tongue, and when we refrain from when we actually engage in intentional silence when we need to engage, versus just needing to fill that space. So a few areas of application, inshallah, for us, a few areas of thought, just thinking about where we can put this into practice based on our tradition. But in our day and age, like I said, our speech is not just that which is spoken now. Our speech is not just that which is verbalized. Our speech is also social media. That social media is not outside of the scope of Allah. It's not outside the scope of the witness of Allah or the scribes that are recording, the angels that are recording. Thinking about when you are commenting on some status, or you're commenting on some post, or saying something vulgar, or saying something mean, or saying something that you may feel is questionable. Think about that. If you weren't to verbalize that because you're afraid that this is being recorded, how would you feel about this also being registered in that sense as well? We don't like it when people surveil us. We don't like that sense of being surveilled in this way by the people around us. But imagine what it would look like if those receipts were to be brought to us on a day when we really need only our good deeds to be able to present for us, or we need to be able to balance those deeds at the least. And what would it look like if those receipts were brought into that court? It's already scary enough when someone is at trial and the court brings their receipts. It's like, oh, look, this is what this person said. And they probably feel like they're in a sticky situation, like, oh, shoot, I shouldn't have said that. Now imagine that on the day of judgment when your receipts are brought, not just what this person spoke with the video evidence, but what this person actually said. It should give us time to think about, is this something that we need to actually say? Is it something that it's necessary for us to say? Is it kind? Is it something that will bring benefit? Or is it something that can just be left because it's going to cause harm if it does? thinking about as well for our families that outside of our speech being in the physical and in the digital area, we often will save our kindest words for our strangers, for our workers, our coworkers. But we will oftentimes give our best speech to the folks who are outside our home and hold that same level of etiquette and same level of care that we give and the cordialness that we have that we approach our words with, the decorum that we approach our speech with, oftentimes on the outside is not reflected oftentimes within the inside. And so how can we strike that balance? That can we model that at home? Because what starts in the home also then spills into our community. But how can we model that within our homes, within our relationships with our families, in our mosques and our communities? And how can we then balance that so that people know when they speak to somebody who's Muslim or whatnot that wow, these people have they're very good in their speech. They hold themselves that standard, and it doesn't feel like a false reality where you feel like you have to take off the cover or take off the mask and be somebody else that you're not when you go back home, or that people feel like they run into a different reality that when they are not Muslim, they experience this immense kindness. They become Muslim and they go into the social circles and feel like, wait, this is just two different worlds. How do we reconcile that? And then lastly, thinking about how listening, how silence in this way is not just a form of passiveness. It's not just passiveness. It's actually active. It's a form of active leadership that this leadership is modeled by deep listening. This leadership is modeled by active listening, by deep listening, by being reflective, by responding accordingly, by providing that space. That listening is not just passive. That silence is not just passive, but the intentional silence that's warranted in those moments to know that you can hold your words when you can hold them is in a sense just like when you're angry and you can just let it all out, or you can hold it and process it out in different ways that are not going to be that are more befitting. That there's power in that, there's leadership in that, and so how we can be those imams, how we can be those leaders that our father Ibrahim had prayed for us to be, to make us the imams of our community, to make us the leaders of our community, to do so not just with the best speech and the best words, but also with the best way of how we can harness and utilize those words to say when things need to be said, but to hold when things need to be held. So inshallah, as we go forward, thinking about what we can do going forward, that how we can challenge ourselves to speak only that that which may help bring clarity, that which may help comfort someone, that which may help counsel or advise or heal someone, but that ultimately which is grounded in truth, not in a lie, that not in falsehood, that we speak that which brings these things, clarity, comfort, counsel, correction, all these things, but it's grounded in truth and it's grounded in care. And we think about how we can practice not just silence in our own spaces within our own life, in our own time when we're on our own. How can we practice and model that silence in settings when we are with other people, when we're being baited to say something, when we are wanting to give our opinion on something, but we haven't refined it. It's not the best thing to say. And again, not just in an online circle, not just in an in-person circle, but in our digital spheres as well. And think about how can we begin our day, but also model our day, thinking about the default dialogue that we have, the default speech that we have, the things that you see online or whatnot. How can we begin and end our day in a way that is more befitting with Allah? And thinking about when we begin our day with something more sacred, whether it's with Fajr, whether it is with, doing in addition with some recitation of the Quran or something with respect to like adhkar or like morning dhikr or whatever it may be, to have a purified speech in the morning, to also have a purified speech in the evening, that we set a model for ourselves. That the same tongue that is praying 5 times a day, the same tongue that is reading the sacred words of the Quran, the same tongue that is reading the beautiful words of the Prophet ﷺ, it's not befitting for that tongue to also then become soiled and show up in the same sense as if you just cursed somebody or just posted something or just dragged someone through the dirt, whatever it may be, or just did some backbiting or gossiping, and then show up on the prayer mat, show up reading the Quran without having recognized what is it that we just did, to keep ourselves and model that. And the last thing I'll just say is that you think about the consequence that, or the analogy that the Quran makes, that when someone is lying, when someone is backbiting, in the case of backbiting, that they are, would they like to eat the flesh of their dead brother? Think if you were to walk into a room, into your office, wherever it might be, and you see someone cannibalizing in a sense. You see someone eating the dead flesh of someone there, you would probably be absolutely horrified. You'd be absolutely, just mortified and be like, oh, get out of here. Like, what the heck is this? Like, this is like out of a horror movie. But thinking about, is that a reflection of your own spirituality? Is that a reflection of what your own tongue does, what your own spirit does, your own soul does when we engage in behavior like that, when our tongue engages in behaviors like that, as filthy, as repulsive, as repugnant as that might be, we think about, is that something that we're doing on a daily basis? And then thinking about in the same context that when we are doing wudu, when we are purifying ourselves before the prayer, we take that time to think about what is it that when we are washing these different parts of our body, the different parts of our face and our mouth and our eyes and our ears, all these different things, that these are being cleansed of the sins as well. It's like the sins are pouring out. Thinking about with respect to our tongue, how often do we properly feel like our tongue has been cleansed from this? So may Allah allow us to be a people that not just purify ourselves and purify ourselves in the external and purify ourselves in the way in which we walk this world, but purify our tongues, purify our speech from that which is of falsehood, of lying, from insulting, from hurting, from injuring, from speech that is harmful, from speech that is also idle in the sense that the idle talk that we have that doesn't provide any benefit, but the speech that is both in the digital and in the spoken space. And may our words, inshallah, be those which are keys that open up goodness, that open up the doors of clarity, that open up the doors of justice, but also are the keys that close the doors of evil, close the doors of falsehood, close the doors of harm. And may our silence as well be something that is truly golden. May our silence be something that's a form of worship. It's a form of reflection. It's a form of ibadah. It's a sunnah that we revive. It's a sunnah that we bring back because it allows for our speech to be refined, to become like that light that we will desperately need, not just in our hearts in this day and age, in this moment, but also on that day when our scales will be brought before us. So may Allah guide us not just to the straight path, but guide us as well to the qawlan sadida, to the straight speech in every single place and opportunity that we inhabit, whether that's outside in our work, whether that is in our mosques, whether that's in our communities, in our group chats, in our social media spheres, or if that's in our private lives, in our homes, in our one-on-one chat messages, in our messages with our family, wherever that might be. May Allah allow it to be so, and may Allah allow us to be a people that walk in the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ, knowing that we will always continue to try and improve ourselves, and to do so is not just a self-help version. It's not something that's just self-help. It's something that is a sunnah. May Allah allow us to be the case. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. We ask Allah to accept this humble sacrifice from us, for very verily Allah is the all-hearing, all-knowing. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.